So, hello everyone. It's good to see you all. Oh, hi Chris. Thanks for the background comments. Um, so paint pouring is one of those things that is very easy to start and try out and experiment with, but it takes a little bit of time and experimentation to master fully. This is just kind of a beginner's guide with some tips and tricks. If you want to do it on your own time, then you can experiment with different ratios, like different recipes. There's a lot available online, and there are a lot of really great free resources and recipes and things like that you can research if you're looking for something slightly different. So I'm going to go over at least 2 techniques today, maybe 3 if we have time. And another really important note before we start mixing anything is pour painting can be super messy. If you can see, I have black trash bags lined all over my table here and here. You're gonna need a decent amount of space when you do pour painting, and it does take quite a while to dry. So if you're going to be pouring these today, you're going to need to leave them where they are or have a safe way to move them to a safer spot until they dry in about 24 hours. So another important note, these paintings that we're making today that we're using with common household materials are very long lasting and they'll stick around for quite a while, but they're not considered archival. So if you wanted to make these for sale, or if you really want to have them around for a long time to be insured, something that you can do is use a professional quality flow material because it is the glue in the mixture that is degradable. So I recommend Liquitex or Golden's acrylic flow medium. And once you use those, another thing you can also do is use distilled water so there's no impurities in your water mixture. Oh, and I actually realized I forgot my water, so I'll be right back. So I've got 2 big cups of water here. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to mix our flow medium. So flow medium is what you use to thin down your paint. It's what separates this from regular painting from flow painting. So to make your flow medium, I've got a mason jar here. The reason I like to use mason jars is because they have markings and lines already on them, but you can use any kind of large container. So I have on my mason jar a pint, a 3/4, and a 1/2 pint measurement. So I'm going to do a 50-50 mixture for my flow medium. So I'm gonna do 1/2 pint of water, and then I take my Elmer's glue here. You can use most brands of glue. I recommend Elmer's just because it's very consistent. And then I'm going to do another 1/2 of the glue. And then you can use a craft stick or a paintbrush to mix it up. But you're just gonna mix it normally the way you would until it's completely dissolved. So that is my flow medium. That's what I've got. I think I'm actually going to make a double dose of it because I don't want to run out and have to remix it again. I'm going to be doing 3 canvases, whereas you guys might only be doing 1. So then I'll do more water. And a general rule of thumb with this is that if you're going to err on a side of more glue or more water, use more water. It's better to be off a little bit that way. And I'm just gonna dump it in. And remix this until it's smooth. So while I'm mixing, let's talk about paint. I have a pretty big variety of different kinds of paint here. Some very cheap, some very top of the line. As with most things with art, the higher quality paint you use, the higher quality results you get, generally speaking. So I have some, you know, Artist Loft, very commercially available, very readily available cheap paint. And then I also have some Liquitex and some other things here. I've got my 2 doses of flow mixture already. So I am going to take my cups then, and we're going to talk about mixing paint. So we'll pick 3 or 4 colors to start with. And for our first canvas, we're just going to be doing a straight pour, nothing too complicated. That's just a beginner's trial. I think I'm going to go with, I want red. How about, I think gold too, and red and gold. Someone in the comments, what goes good with red and gold? Any ideas from our audience at home?
We have purple as a suggestion.
I like that. That's a very noble kind of color scheme.
2 votes for purple, 1 for silver.
I do have silver, but it's kind of lumpy. So maybe we will go with the silver right now. So I've got purple here. We can do that. So then we'll do some red. So if you, it's a not delightful noise from my paint. So you're gonna squeeze a pretty good amount of paint in here. I don't know if you can see, but that's about the bottom of my cup lined with that paint. So then I'll just do some purple real quick. And I'm a little bit low on purple in the tube. So I am going to add some red and some blue. So when you do flow painting, there's kind of 2 ways to start your canvas. You can start with either a wet canvas or a dry canvas. If you start with a dry canvas, your colors are gonna stay a little bit more separated. It's kind of like the concept of wet on wet versus dry watercolor, if that makes sense. And it's kind of just that same idea where if you have water down, it's going to obviously spread out easier. And if you have nothing down, it's just going to keep its shape a little bit more. So for our first, we'll use the most basic technique, and we're going to do a dry canvas. How's everyone following along at home? Good? So there's my paint, I've got that. Now to mix your paint, you're going to do a 50-50 mix of the paint and the flow medium. So I'll just pour that in. Usually until it about covers, maybe a little more. And if you're going to err on a side, use more flow medium than paint. You want it to be as liquid as possible. So I'm just gonna mix it and stir it. That takes a little while because you don't want any lumps. If you have lumps on your paint canvases, then you're going to find that your painting will dry very lumpy and your colors won't spread out the way you want them to. So this is one of my paints mixed. It's kind of got almost a like runny liquid egg consistency. That should be about what you're shooting for. And then I'll mix my red. And while I'm mixing, because my audience at home might be a little ahead of me, something to consider doing is doing a little tester with your paints if this is your first time trying it. So if you have a paper plate or a scrap piece of paper, just pouring a tiny amount of your paint out and seeing how it slides around. If it's runny and if it's moving, you're good. If it's not, add a little bit more flow medium. How's our audience, Abby? Is anyone asking questions?
We're good. We're in the middle of getting all of our colors mixed up over here too. We're picking out which ones we want to use and trying to follow along. What colors is everyone else using?
So there's my colors mixed. And then, yeah, purple and teal, that sounds pretty. I want to talk about cells. Have you all heard of cells? So cells are a big thing with flow painting. That's when you get the little bubbles and ripples in your surface and it looks like there's like paint within paint. And there's a few different ways to get it. The two most common ways that professional artists use are adding a few drops of liquid silicone or adding a few drops of WD-40 directly to your paint. So I personally don't like doing either of those things. I think that there's a simpler solution. I like to add 1 or 2 drops of dish soap to every cup of paint. But that is optional, and it's something that you can experiment with down the line. So there's a few drops in here, few drops, few drops. You don't want to use too much of that because then your paint gets very soapy and it's very difficult to paint and clean, and you tend to get a lot of bubbles in the surfaces of your paintings. So I've got my 3 colors here. Now I'm going to talk about the setup of my canvas. So this is what I'm going to use today, but this is what I traditionally use. It is a big cardboard box with a trash bag inside of it to catch all the paint, but it's not very camera friendly. So this has the exact same effect. So I have my giant metal container here. And this is just kind of those takeout containers you can get from the dollar store. I flex the sides out a little bit so my my canvas will fit. And then for the purposes of the demo, I'm just going to be propping my canvas up on cups. Now, if you're at home and you don't have one of these, no problem. What you can do is just lay it flat on the table. You have the trash bag there to catch all of your paint, and you can even put paper towels underneath just to line it to make sure that your paint doesn't spread too far. Make sense? So I'm just going to take my canvas here, and I'm going to play around with where to put my cups to balance it, and then just set it down. So that's my setup, very simple, very easy to replicate. And for my first painting, I'm just going to be doing a straight pour. So nothing too crazy yet, but we'll see some really interesting techniques later. I'm going to use a little bit of gold, and I just pour directly on my canvas. So we'll just do a straight pour right down the middle. And then I'll add some red into that. And then purple into that. It's already kind of spreading out. You can see it's spreading and getting wider. And then I can take my canvas and just tilt it to play with where my paint goes and how it's looking on my canvas. So tilt it back and forth. Thank you for the compliment. And you can see I've got some cells forming here. The paint's breaking like that. Another great way to get cells is also density. So with all the splitting that's going on here, that's telling me that my gold paint is thicker than the other paints, which makes sense because it's metallic and it's got more stuff in it. So if you can see, do you see all the splitting there? And that just lets me know that this painting is going to have a ton of cells. So I'm just going to put it back down. And from here, I can kind of play with how my canvas looks. So I'll just keep adding. There's some gold. I'll add to my edges to make sure all my paint reaches the sides. And I'll add some red. So while I'm pouring and kind of playing around, does anyone in the audience have questions?
I have a question for you, Nicole.
Yeah, what's up?
I watched some videos online and I saw people using torches to help make that bubbly look. Have you ever done that?
I have not, because I do not happen to own a blowtorch. But what they're doing when they use the blowtorch, what they're doing is they added liquid silicone to their paints. So when you torch it, you're just burning the silicone, and then the silicone separates and that becomes a cell. Make sense?
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty technical, very interesting.
We have another question from the audience. Someone asked, can you stack paints on top of each other within one cup?
Yes, you can. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit. This is just the straight run directly from the cup. That's the simplest way to do it, and I'd recommend doing it that way for your first trial. And in all honesty, you can just keep stacking and stacking and stacking paint on top of each other on your canvas. There's nothing wrong with experimenting and trying new things out. I've even found myself in the past, if I do a flow painting on a canvas and I'm not 100% happy with the way it looks, I'll go back in later and I will like keep adding on to it as it dries, or paint a new layer on top of it after it's fully dry. And that works just fine too. It's a little chunky eventually if you keep stacking, but it's not really a problem. One more way to kind of organically get cells going in your painting is to, as you are running low on paint, like I'm almost out of my red here, I'm just going to play with the density of my paint by adding more of my flow medium. So I'll just dump some red in to there, mix it up. And now I have a very, very thin red. So you can see right away, it kind of starts to separate as it goes through.
We have one more question from the audience for you, Nicole.
Of course.
A question about using glitter or sand or any other sort of gritty texture material. Do you want to add that early in the process or later on?
That really depends. That's not something I've experimented too much with myself, but it depends on the kind of look you're going for. If you want your canvas to be like gritty and chunky, you can either add it directly to the paints, but in that case, you're not going to get a lot of flow, or you can sprinkle it on top afterward. I did try for my first few paintings, sprinkling a little bit of salt on top. And what happens is that it kind of like crystallizes. So it's very interesting. I would say that if you want to add that kind of thing, do it later in the process, like immediately after you are done and happy with your pouring. So I'm kind of on the road where I'm happy with my painting here. I'm just going to finish up with a little bit of purple on my edges. And then I'll tilt it a little bit. Something that's important to note with these flow paintings is that they tend to continue to like change and develop more fully while they're drying. So try not to mess with it too much, because if you get your colors too mixy, they tend not to keep as they go. Like this painting here, when I first did it, it was a very vibrant rainbow, but because I kept messing with it and tilting it too much, and I was a little bit overly obsessed with the swirls that were going on, I ended up making it too muddy. So I am pretty satisfied with this painting. And I'm just gonna wipe off my hands. Always have paper towels handy. You do these a lot. And I'm just going to set that aside for now and move on to my next technique. And the next technique we're going to cover is called a spiral pour. And we're going to be stacking multiple paints. So if you want to get a head start on mixing paints, you totally can. I'm just going to put that in the box. I could also put it flat on paper towels. That's totally fine and not a problem. And that's the most basic kind of flow painting that you can do. It's very easy and simple to follow along with. So I'll put these cups aside, and I'm very excited to do the next one. So I have some acrylic neon paints here. And I don't know if everyone here had saw this before, but we have this jar. So this was a jar that was just a regular glass jar, and we did flow painting on top of it. So you can do flow painting on a lot of different things. You can do them on furniture, different kinds of things like that. Anything with a smooth finished surface like wood or canvas or board of any type is something that you can do painting on. So I've got my canvas here. I don't know if you all can see at home really easily, but I taped off some things. So I taped off AAM for the Allentown Art Museum. And I am going to mix up the colors of our logo, just to show you how really individualized and interesting and interconnected you can make all of your paintings. You could definitely do something like your name or something important to you. I've seen a lot of people like tape off pictures or tape off words and letters on their canvases and then flow paint on top of it. So then after your painting fully dries, you'll be able to pull your tape up and the letters will be clean white and everything else is going to be whatever your paint pour is. So I'm just going to take these out of the box. I was very excited when I saw all the neon colors.
So Nicole, about how long should you leave a painting to dry?
Yes. So drying time is different depending on the type of glue you use, the type of paint you use. And generally speaking, it takes about like 18 to 24 hours, sometimes a little more. So a drying tip that I have, what you can do to really speed up your drying is take a canvas or take a fan, like an area fan or a rotating fan, and you're going to set up the fan next to your workstation where your painting is. Don't blow it directly on, but just next to, because it'll circulate air and allow everything to dry faster. You can actually do that with oil paints too if you're having a hard time getting them to dry, if you have a humid environment around you. I learned that tip while I was in college and it saved my life. So I'm going to mix up a new batch of paints. Does anybody have questions?
Have you ever done this technique on things other than canvas? I know you showed the ceramic at the beginning, but is there anything else you've ever tried it on?
Yes, I actually did it on a table. So that I unfortunately did not smooth out my flow medium enough. I didn't add enough liquid to it, so it didn't come out as smooth as I'd like it to be. But I did go back on top of it. I mixed everything in the correct ratios. I did some tests, and I have like a really beautiful pour painted table upstairs. A tip with that, if you like doing furniture or things like that, what you can do is add just a little bit of varnish to your paints, so that way it will weather seal everything. And then I'm just going to mix up my paint here real quick. As everyone's painting is coming out.
We've got our first one finished, and it looks really good.
Awesome.
They did blue and magenta and gold, and it's the magenta swirled right in the middle. It looks really cool.
That's so rad. And then if you all are interested in posting your Canvas wins, something that you can do is use hashtag AAM at home or hashtag AAM let your light shine to appear when we search for your artwork. Also tag us at A-Town Art Museum. Another thing that you can do is send us a private message. So if you have a private account and you're tagging your art, we might not be able to see it. That's an important step if you keep your account private. So I'm mixing up my neon paints here. They're very bright. Whoa, that yellow is bright. And then I think I'll add some more blue paint because that's a much more dull color than the other ones.
Nicole, how many colors would you say are too many to do in a pour painting? How
So
far is too far?
it depends. I'm using smaller canvases here just for the ease of setup and showing you all. But depending on the size of your canvas, you can do a lot. Like we have a piece in our collection by Sam Gilliam called Element that's very successful, and he uses many, many different colors on a few different panels that are joined together. You can do that if your canvas is bigger, but for a small one like this, or maybe even this, I would limit yourself to no more than 5 colors. And then you can always add like a few drops here and there of another color. You tend to run the risk of adding too much paint and then things getting muddy. That's actually the mistake I made with this one. So I have got my 3 colors here, and I'm going to do a 3-color stacked pour. So I'll show you how I do that. I use these clear cups to just show you all what's going on inside of the cups, but you can use anything that you would want. You don't even have to use disposable cups. So here I have my first color, and I'm just going to take it and pour down the side, just like that, of my cup. So I am going to want to keep some paint, so I'm not going to add it all. So there I've got one color. And then what I'm gonna do is I'll add a second color, just dripping down the side there. Oops, spilled a little. So then there's my other color, and then here's my third color. So then I'm just reserving a little bit of the paint to use later. Now that I have that, what I'm gonna do, you can see my full cup and you can see all the colors there, how they're stacked. And I'm gonna be careful not to bump that around too much, to just leave it the way it is and be gentle. So I'm just gonna tilt it in a second, and I'm going to pour with like a circular motion. So as I go, I'm gonna be twisting my wrist. You're making like loop-de-loops. Pretend you're tracing like 50 letter cursive L's. So here I go, I'm just gonna pour slowly but surely, and I'm just going to do that circular motion. And you can see that I'm getting a little bit of mixing going on here. There's the yellow, and there I go with the pink. Then that's the inside of the cup afterward. Kind of neat. So there I have that. It's kind of already starting to spread and change. One more thing I can do is to kind of just take another cup, and I'm going to mix up a little bit of white paint. So pour my flow medium in, and then I'm just gonna use a white bottle of paint. And you don't have to do this step. This was the wet versus dry canvas I was talking about earlier. And I'm just gonna show you how easily the wet canvas technique helps you get the really, really mixing and blending colors without losing a lot of your definition. So I'm just gonna mix that up real quick. I just prefer using white for the aesthetics of this painting. You can use another color, or you can just use the flow medium. It's up for the look that you want. So then with this, I'm just gonna go around the edges of my paint pour, my spiral pour. Just go around the edges like this. And this is really just going to help me like mix and spread my paint without over mixing my colors. So I just went around the edges of that big floppy shape. Now I'm going to tilt. And you can see it's really flowing. Whereas last time it definitely took a little longer. So I'm just gonna move and pour to get every inch of my canvas covered. And then I'll just pour this way. And then over here. And then back up a little bit so we keep some of that really interesting transition. And simple and easy, that's the spiral pour. It's one of my favorite ones just because it has such a distinctive look to it. It's super easy to do, and it has some really interesting results. Anyone have any questions from the audience?
No questions yet, but will we get to see the final product maybe of the AAM painting?
Yes, so we will post that tomorrow on social media after it's fully dry. If I peel off the tape before it dries, it's just going to and obscure that out. So we can come back to that later. And then something that you can do is just add a few drops here and there wherever you see something that looks a little bit too uniform or you want to tweak it just a tad. So then that yellow was really thick. I'll thin that out. Another thing you can do, just to keep playing with it and get the effects you want, you can just use your finger or a craft stick or a paintbrush and kind of go back in and peel some paint up, or you can kind of make like a marbled effect. It's another really fun technique to do. Sometimes you just got to get your hands messy. So I'm just going to go back in, do a little bit of moving around, and play with the way that my paint's looking. All right, so then I think I am very happy with this canvas. And for our last one, we're going to try a flip cup. That makes me very excited because flip cups are super fun to do. Has anyone ever played flip cup? Maybe, maybe not.
I've played.
Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of the same idea, but not really. It's a little different. You're the one flip wonder. That's funny. So then there's my canvas there. And for my last one, I'm just going to put some paper towels down and do a very simple setup here. This canvas is a little bigger, so we can use more colors. If the audience wants to start commenting what color combinations we should we do rainbow? Should we keep it monochromatic? What do we think? Let's vote. Then one last thing that to note with your setup with this one, where we just use the baking tin, is that it gathers the paint. So if you just wanted to do like a messy pour afterward of all of the conglomerated paint mess, that can be really fun to experiment with. So this is my last canvas. I'm just gonna take some cups and prop it up.
So Nicole, we have a vote for a monochromatic, but they also asked if we can do like an ombre effect. Is that possible?
It is. I honestly think that doing like a monochromatic with this technique, with a spiral pour, that's the easiest way to do it. Would you like to see the flip cup technique, or would we like to see a monochromatic spiral pour?
My vote's for flip, but let's see if anyone else wants to weigh in.
I can also just grab another canvas.
Yeah, everyone's going for the flip. Let's do it.
Go for the flip. All right. So flip cup. So we want monochromatic. What color family do we want to go with? I'm voting for like yellow green because that's my favorite, but let me know what you all think. And let's do, this is a bigger canvas, so let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors, or shades, I should say. It is difficult to get a perfect ombre because this really isn't the right type of painting to get finesse controlled results. It's definitely possible with expertise and patience and time and resources, but it's never guaranteed to be perfect, and that's why it's awesome.
Just to let you know, Nicole, we're running a little low on time. We have about 10 minutes left before we gotta hop off.
All right, so let's just do a 3-color flip cup. Do we want to do, I've got a lot of yellow shades. I've got a lot of green shades. So between those, what do you think, Abby? Yellow?
Oh, absolutely. I love yellow.
Yellow's my favorite color. So I've got some really bright yellow. Now, really light yellow. This will go at the end. We can do like a nice, like bright to white, maybe. That would be really cool. This is like the golden color, or yellow oxide. Ooh, we can do gold too. That'll be fun. And then where did my gold paint go? There it is. One last color. Now I'll just do a speed run because we want to get this done so we have time for trivia. What is our actual time, Abby, if you could tell me?
It is 6:48.
Whoa. All right, we'll do a speed run on this one. So I won't talk too much. And then let me just pour my flow medium in and mix like a madman.
You know, Nicole, if we don't finish this one, we could also let this one be a surprise for tomorrow too.
That's very true. Whoops, that's a lot of paint. All right, let's mix. If there's any chefs in the audience, you can be impressed by my paint mixing skills.
I don't know about you guys, but our workspace is a complete mess and it's awesome.
There's nothing better than getting your hands messy with art. There really isn't.
So true.
All right, so there's my clean cup. Here's my gold. We'll swap these two. This one, no, gold first. Just gonna pour down the side, and we'll do, I was gonna do a messy flip cup, but I really want this ombre effect that we just talked about. So we'll do a clean flip cup instead. Now, be warned, the flip cup can be a disaster. That's very dramatic. Let me roll that back a little. Flip cup can be a little messy. So with this, you're just going to invert your cup, your canvas, put the cup on the bottom, and then you flip it physically back so gravity drains all the paint down and then it just spreads out. And then real quick, I'm just going to wet my canvas down. It's good for the flip cup to have a lot of moisture. And I'll do a little wiggle to spread that out more. I'm just gonna do this. just a little bit of moisture on there, that goes a long way to help because you are flipping it and you don't want it to be dripping. So then invert, cup on the bottom, painting on top, hold it tight, and then you flip it. And just hold it for about, I'd say 30-ish seconds. You can play around with dragging it a little. So you're gonna hold it until you think that your paint is more or less all poured out, and then just lift up. So I'll lift on 3. 1, 2, 3. Boom. So I don't know if you can all see on the camera, but right here we have a lot of, there's already some cells happening. There's already a lot of really cool mixing. And then I'm just going to tilt. And then you can see it's kind of like a more smooth ombre looking effect as compared to, especially the straight pour that we did first at the beginning. Now, while we're wrapping this up, I know we're a little short on time. Abby is going to be doing trivia in a few minutes. Abby, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. We're going to be doing Let Your Light Shine trivia this third Thursday. My husband, Brett, will be hosting and reading the questions, and I'll be in the background just like here, sort of helping out and making sure I get all the answers and keep everyone's score straight. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and there is going to be a prize, a $30 Amazon gift card. So please, please, please join us if you can.
All right, so here you can see this is our flip cup canvas. And there's a lot of blending action going on, a very nice effect. And that about wraps us up. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for trying it out. We would love to see all of your artwork. Remember, use hashtag AM at home or hashtag AM Let Your Light Shine, and then tag us on social media if you want to share your photos with us. So thank you very much for joining. I hope you all have a great night, and I can't wait to see you at trivia.
Thanks so much, Nicole. Have a good night, everyone.